The legend of Waldhütte comes from actual 18th century documents from the Black Forest area, where whole villages vanished without reason. To this day, locals insist that the woods whisper their names on the right breeze, and one day, call them home. I arrived in Baden-Württemberg on a cold autumn morning, the kind where the fog hung low enough to kiss the trees and every breath seemed to echo against the hills. I wasn't there as a tourist. I was a historian, sent to document forgotten settlements of the early 18th century, places swallowed by time and forest. The locals in Triberg had cautioned me against one such destination, Waldhütte, a small village that disappeared almost 3 centuries back. "It's cursed," the elderly innkeeper said, responding to my query. "Nobody crosses the 3rd milestone on the Schwarzwald trail. Not even the hunters. Me, naturally, didn't listen. Curses provide good tales, but I work with facts. At least, so I consoled myself." By midday, I was following a narrow path that ran between columns of black firs so high that they scraped the clouds. The further in I went, the more silent it grew. The birds ceased to sing, and even the sound of leaves crunching beneath my boots was muted. 2 hours into the hike, I came upon it, a moss-clad sign hammered to a half-rotten pole. Waldhütte, 1 kilometer. I grinned, took out my notebook, and continued on my way. By the time I finally made it to the village, it was tiny compared to what I had envisioned. A group of 5 wooden cabins huddled together like drunkards after a hurricane. Their roofs slanted, their windows were empty voids, and their doors creaked on rusty hinges. But most of all, I was struck by the air. It was heavy and damp and somehow warm, as if the forest itself were exhaling. I started snapping pictures, observing the style of building, mid-17th century, pre-industrial. And then I noticed something odd. On one of the doors, cut deep into the wood, was a spiral of interlocking runes. Not Norse runes, not Latin letters. It glowed with a soft light in the sun, almost damp-looking. I leaned forward, outlining the form with my penlight. It was not carved. It was burned into. That's when I heard it. A soft whisper, as if someone was breathing my name behind a wall. Jonas. I stopped, I spun around. No one was there. Only trees. Only fog. Suddenly, the wind blew up, and the door creaked open by itself. There was a smell of old iron and seared herbs inside. The floorboards were slippery with moss, and in the corner, half hidden among leaves, lay something that resembled a human jawbone, charred black. My rational mind told me to leave, but something, curiosity, obsession, maybe the arrogance of a man who didn't believe in ghosts, made me stay. I explored every building before sundown. Each one was empty but not untouched. Signs of ritual were everywhere. Bones arranged in circles, feathers hanging from the rafters, drawings of strange creatures with antlers and human eyes. In the middle of the village was a chapel made of stone, its steeple fallen and its cross gone. The entrance had been barricaded by rusty chains. I pushed them apart with my hiking pick. Inside, the air was heavy and damp. The altar was knocked over, and underneath it was a painting. A rough depiction of a man flayed alive under a full moon, with villagers in black robes kneeling around him. The caption below read, "Das Opfer der Ernte," the harvest sacrifice. There were melted candles still on the floor, and in the middle, a soot-blackened empty circle. It wasn't merely a church, it was used as a ritual room. That's when I saw the scrawl on the wall behind the altar, etched deeply into the stone, as if with fingernails. They offered the blood of one to feed the many. I took a picture. The flash illuminated the room, and for one instant I saw movement beyond the pews. A figure, slumped, pale, regarding me. The flash extinguished, and the figure vanished. I sprinted outside, pounding heart, but the village was quiet once more. Dusk had descended quickly, abnormally quickly, and the fog had deepened. I decided to make camp outside the chapel, telling myself I'd leave at first light. But the forest didn't sleep that night. I heard it first around midnight. The sound of something dragging along the path. Not footsteps. Something heavier. Something wet. Then came the breathing. Deep, slow, and close. I turned on my flashlight. The beam cut through the fog and hit something. A shape crouched between two trees. It was human. Nearly. Its skin was taut and white, its arms too long, its lips black with dirt. At its neck was a necklace of teeth. When the sun struck it, it slowly tilted its head toward me, as if interested, then whispered, "One must always stay." I backed away, reaching for my blade. The creature did not advance. It merely pointed in the direction of the chapel. Then it dissolved into the fog. Early in the morning, I discovered something half buried next to the chapel foundation. A wooden box, wax-sealed. It contained a sheaf of papers, yellowed with age. It was written in 18th century German, but I could read enough. It was the diary of Father Matthias Klein, the last priest at Waldhütte. The harvest fails once more. The elders believe it is punishment. They have turned to the old gods, the gods of the forest. They call it the Covenant. Every fall, there is a sacrifice selected. They take them out into the woods under the full moon. I have attempted to halt them, but the forest only listens to blood. Tonight, they come for me. The final page was smudged with something black. Dried blood, perhaps. Underneath it, scrawled in shaking, hasty lines, was the same spiral symbol I'd noticed on the door. And then the writing. The forest remembers. I should have gone then. God, I wanted to, but I couldn't. Something about the place kept me. I broke down my tent and attempted to double back to the main trail, but the forest was altered. The signs were gone. The path twisted in ways it hadn't before. It took me an hour of hiking to realize that I was where I began. The same destroyed village, the same chapel, the spiral. It wasn't only cut into wood and stone, it was the forest itself. I slumped, trembling, attempting to get my bearings. That was when I heard singing. Gentle, low, in some ancient dialect that I didn't understand. Shapes walked between the trees. 6 or 7 of them in black robes, faces concealed behind animal skulls. They each had torches, and they were chanting, "Ein Leben für den Wald, ein Leben für den Wald." A life for the forest. They circled me. I didn't run. I couldn't. My body wouldn't move. One stepped forward. A tall figure wearing a deer skull. Beneath the bone mask, I saw eyes that weren't human. He held out a knife made of obsidian and whispered, "You entered without offering." I screamed and threw the lantern at him. It shattered, fire spilling across the leaves. The figure shrieked, but not in pain. In delight, the forest bellowed with a living sound. The fire crawled up, but the trees did not burn. They throbbed, alive as if they were feeding, and the chanting grew louder. I don't know how I escaped, only that I ran, blindly, tirelessly on detour, until I saw the distant lights of Triberg. When I came stumbling into town, I was dazed, half hidden in ash. I was found by the police the next morning on the highway. They told me I had been gone for 3 days. When I spoke of Waldhütte, the officers looked at each other. One of them, a younger man, took me by the elbow and spoke in low tones. That village was burned down in 1732. No one's gone there since. But when they went to check the forest, they discovered something. A new spiral seared into the earth. Still smoldering, weeks afterward in Berlin, I listened to the recordings from my machine. I'd left it on the whole time. It was static, the sounds of the forest, my own respirations. But then, toward the end, something else. A soft voice whispering, buried under the hiss. The forest remembers. One must always stay. And just as the tape ran out, my own voice whispering back, I'm still here. Epilogue, that was 6 months ago. Since then, I haven't been able to sleep through a whole night. Every dream ends the same way. I'm at Waldhütte, standing in front of the chapel. The spiral glows at my feet and the forest thuds like a heartbeat. Occasionally, when I wake up, my window is open and there is dirt on the floor. 2 nights ago, I discovered something outside the door of my apartment. A necklace, constructed from teeth. The tag that was attached to it read only "Ein Leben für den Wald," a life for the forest.